All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our episode tonight. Um, Viv, I hear you've been in KS for about 5.5 years or more than that. So, quickly, how would you describe your experience thus far?
My experience thus far has been pretty good. I definitely decided to join in college just to bring more awareness about different parts of Asia that obviously my school wasn't talking about. And then post that, after I graduated, when I was in the city, um, I wanted to continue that and go to different parts of New York to teach people about that as well. And I think it's really interesting that we teach not in a traditional aspect. It's a lot more dancing, storytelling for sure. And I think that's just been the best part about joining Kingdom Sindaw. And I guess, Jerome, you joined a little bit more recently.
Yes, that's right. So I joined back in 2019, starting with a couple of weekend dance classes, leading to my first performance with KS for Queensboro Dance Festival at Diversity Plaza, and then at the theater by Metzwells Park. And I also did my first major production with them in 2020, right as all the craziness started happening. But I really love that. Aside from just the dancing and the incorporation of martial arts, I'm learning more than what I could have gotten from a textbook because a lot of textbooks they don't talk about the indigenous peoples of Mindanao. They don't talk about like the actual sociocultural and political and economic and all that fun stuff. They don't talk about the context behind Mindanao's history. They focus mostly on the Luzon, if anything, and Visayas. But I want to learn more about everyone, especially with special regard to Mindanao. And even though we're in a pandemic, we still got our weekend dance classes, so y'all can join us on Saturdays or Sundays. Feel free to send us a message on our page and we'll give you more info on that. You don't have to have previous dance experience to join us. You also don't have to be Filipino. We welcome anyone and everyone with open arms, like it's a huge family because that's what we are here in Ginding Sindao. We're here to help you grow as well as have everyone who comes take these cultural traditions and spread them on throughout the world so it keeps living through us as diaspora. So, what are you waiting for right now? I want y'all to click that like button, turn on your notifications bell, and join us as we keep these traditions alive and well. So we can move on to the next slide, Patty. And before we get into the thick of things, I just want to, for those who are joining us for the very first time or those who need a refresher, Rinayung is the magical boat of Bantugan in the Maranao epic of Darangan. It travels distance, it flies, can go deep underwater, it can carry a variety of things such as many people, magical creatures, and plant life. And it's a symbol of diaspora, like us, and it's on us to really take these Indigenous voices, amplify them using our privilege and our platforms so that their issues are heard, their voices are heard, and that way we can address those issues and fight for equity on all fronts. Next slide, please. All right, and some quick guidelines. This event is being recorded, so for folks joining us via Zoom, if you do not want your face to be shown, feel free to turn off your camera. That is perfectly fine as well. And it's also being live streamed to Kindig Sindaw's Facebook page. As a quick disclaimer and content warning, some of the things we discuss on our Rinayung web series may be triggering in a variety of aspects. It's not in our intention. It's just these are the topics that are pressing and we must discuss. And if folks are feeling any form of discomfort, please feel free to message any of the co-hosts with me today. So you have myself, Jerome, we have Patty, we have Vivian, and you can also message Poetry, our artistic director and founder, if you're feeling any form of discomfort, and we will follow up with you as well to make sure you are in good hands. Next, please. Oh, I'm sorry, I lied. Another guideline I missed because I got a little excited there. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Zoom chat if you're joining us on that platform. Or if you're joining us from Facebook Live, feel free to put your questions and comments in the comment section, and one of us will bring it up to our speaker so that way we can have them addressed for you. Now we can move forward. All right, so hello everyone. Again, my name is Jerome Valoria. I'm one of your co-hosts for tonight, along with Vivian Chow and Patty Kilroy, as well as Putri Rangkamanes Gayanonur, our artistic director and our founder, I should say, of Ginling Sindaw. And the mission of KS is to assert, preserve, and reclaim our traditions, especially as folks of Mindanao, so that we continuously keep them alive through generations to come, and also that these traditions are taught in the most accurate and the most genuine way and preserved as well. We're also going to give a quick shout out to our funders. We have land acknowledgements from folks here in the United States as well as back home in the Philippines. And then we're going to go right into meeting our esteemed speaker tonight, which is Ms. Samira Gutoc. We'll have an open Q&A portion, and then we'll have some closing announcements to wrap up the night. Next slide, please. All right, so a huge thank you to our funders who, without your continuous support, we literally would not be doing anything right now. So first and foremost, we would like to give a huge thank you to the Loida Nicholas Lewis and Reginald F. Lewis Foundation. They've been some of our largest supporters since the inception of Ginling Sindaw, and without you guys, I really don't think I would have even heard of this organization, so thank you so much. Again, we'd also like to thank La Mama Experimental Theater Club, and a huge shout out to the late Ellen Stewart, who saw something inspirational in Poetry's work, and she gave us the space at La Mama to continue performing our art, not just as a form of entertainment, but also as a form of social justice, of activism, art as activism, and getting our issues heard out there. And we've been resident artists at La Mama for a number of years as well. We also like to thank another large supporter, Lotus Music and Dance. They've been one of our long-standing community partners since 1992, and they've also helped us get really rooted in the community, helping us also find guest speakers for our previous one of our previous seasons when we had Lightlandist Life, working with Indigenous folks of North America. We'd also like to thank the New York City Council, the Howard Gilman Foundation, the Department of Cultural Affairs in New York City, NYFA, or the New York Foundation of the Arts, Dance NYC, and Kidney Care of the Treasure Coast. Thank you so much for your support, and we hope to continue producing quality work for you all. Next, please. And now we have some land acknowledgements. The purpose of these land acknowledgements is for us to really acknowledge and understand that we are on stolen land. We are on settled land. It's not ours. And we want to pay our respects to the folks who were here before us, both here in the United States, as well as in the Indigenous peoples of Mindanao. So first, we have Teresa Bearfox of the Mohawk Nation.
Yama. It's good to be here with all of you. Gangyokokta is my Mohawk name. It means I'm at the back of a crowd of people or at the end of a long line of people. And I'd like to share a song with you all. It's in honor of the women what I'm saying in the language, which is Ganyak Geha, the Mohawk language. I'm saying that women have good minds, women have good medicine, and women have a lot of strength. And the Odalit Salane is like the generations of the teachings that have been carried on from one generation to the next. So I hope you like this song. Yung kwani kong tiyo, niya yung kwe yung kwanong kwa telio. Niya yung kwe, yo we yung kwa zat sa telaya. Niya yung kwe. Ayo, 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 weya. We hana yo, weya, 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 we hana yo, weya, 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 deo dele telane. Niya yung kwe, yung kwani kong tiyo. Niya yung kwe, yung kwanong kwa telio. Niya yung kwe, yo we, yung kwa zat san telaya. Niya yung kwe, ayo, 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 weya. We hana yo, weya, 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 we hana yo, weya, weya, Dio dele telane, niya yung kwe, Yoko.
All right, and a huge thank you to Teresa Bear Fox for always supporting our work in Kinding Sindaw. The next line acknowledgement we have is from Unok of the Maranao people in Philippines. All right, and folks, that may sound familiar to a couple of y'all because that was also featured in our production last year of Bananabem. And now we're going to move on and meet our speaker tonight. This is Samira Gutoc, who has been on our show before, but a quick refresher, as well as an introduction for folks who are just watching us for the first time. Samira Gutoc is a Filipino journalist, environmentalist, women's advocate, and legislator. She has served as a member of the Regional Legislative Assembly of the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao and a member of the Bangsamoro Transition Commission, which was tasked to draft the Bangsamoro Basic Law. She is also the founder of the Asian Peace Alliance, associated with Asia Pacific Peace Research Association, Rights for Asian Muslim Action Network, and established Ranao Rescue Team, a volunteer group who helps civilians displaced by the Battle of Marawi or Marawi Siege, offering relief missions to civilians. She currently lives in Marawi City, belongs to the Maranao ethnic group, and is a follower of Islam. Folks, I present to you Miss Samira Gutoc. Thank you for joining us once again. Oh, I think you are muted, Samira.
Sorry, the Wi-Fi gets lost here, Jerome. Am I
No
okay?
worries. Yes, we can hear you nice and clear.
Good morning here in the Philippines. Good evening there in US and all the Facebook community. We are very grateful, Patty and all, for the platform. As we are very busy since 6 o'clock in the morning monitoring our colleagues who are visiting the cemetery. I'm now under quarantine. I've had COVID for 6 days, asymptomatic. So I couldn't join the ceremonies of prayer to pray for the fallen, hundreds, if not 1,000 graveyards that are in the cemetery of Marawi, with no names to their names. That's the saddest part of it. It's tragic moment where the names that are going to be prayed on don't have actual identities and names. Till today, 4 years later of the Marawi Siege, 2017 Marawi, May 23, there is no concrete evidence or itemizing of the names of who the actual dead were. Many of the dead survivors, the survivors of the dead, don't want their names to be known, actually, because they don't want to be listed by government as possible terrorist suspects. So the scenario is that they've been afraid to come out, and many are suffering in silence. So thank you for this platform. As I start off today as a remembrance, as a memorialization, along with 20 other organizations who are accompanying us in Marawi, there's a statement that we released yesterday to the Foreign Correspondents Association of the Philippines and all other media outlets, where we urge the Congress, the Philippine Congress, to declare May 23 as the martial law or the Marawi Siege anniversary. And we also urge the Philippine Congress in their last sessions before the one-year election from now, May 9, that they declare they fast track the safe and dignified return of Marawi. Second off, point is that America, United States, and the Philippines has strong bilateral relations, security relations, relations that deal with presence of the military, intelligence, training here in the Philippines. And we know in the southern Philippines, where I am at, here in Marawi, there is the search for so-called terrorists, especially firmed up after 9/11, the World Trade Center attack. And so the Philippines continues to be a strategic location for monitoring so-called terrorism suspects, terrorism individuals. In 2017, this Hapilon from Sulu, who is not from Marawi, was spotted here in Marawi. That's because he was also attending this major gathering of people, Muslim men who are the Tabligh, I think you've seen them. They're the ones in white, and it's like they're those who are uh, spiritually giving up a lot of things, and they wear white, they come together in white, they pray in white, they converge in the mosques almost 24 hours, stay in the mosque for prayer. So they're kind of like those who are um, maybe the Buddhists of our time, of our Muslim communities. So they were looking, the government was looking upon an FBI warrant for a certain Hapilon. And he found them in Marawi. And without much of a coordination, we think, with the local security forces, because the local security army was looking for a drug syndicates out in a far municipality, not in Marawi. And many of the leaders were attending, the traditional leaders were attending a Davao conference 12 hours away. And the police were also undermanned. Then you furnish a warrant to a Hapilon who had his pose, who had his group, who had his men alongside him. And there was not security for the civilian population that is the commercial center capital of the Muslim South. Yes, Marawi is the commercial site. Most of the people from the islands, we are in central, they in the western part of our country, Western Islands, would come here for Arabic, Islamic studies, and also for scholarship. The Mindanao State University, which graduates 4,000 scholars every year, has almost zero tuition here in Marawi City. Among the whole of Mindanao, you have it in Marawi City, the main center of the Mindanao State University, with almost 15,000 students. So can you imagine furnishing a warrant, an FBI and a local warrant, when you're not ready security-wise, to a community that is alive, educating on a graduation day, shopping for gifts at a lunchtime, when people were not together, they were buying gifts, not with their children alone. Children were alone in their houses. Can you imagine Miss Rahima Lumabaw and 4 of her children missing during that moment of running away from the bullets? So May 23, 2017, at about 12 p.m., the shots to defend the Hapilon and the exchange of fire happened just 3 minutes away from me. So this is where I am at. This is the house, and this is our location, 3 minutes or so from the location where I can go out later in the gate, where the shooting happened, Basak Madatlat. So I'm just a few minutes away, but I was not here. My mother was here. My 4-year-old, 2-year-old then was here in the house. They shot at each other. The Maute group were screaming at the top of their lungs. They said some of their women were shot at. So their women were not Maute group, of course. I mean, they would claim that they're civilians. They're ordinary people without firearms. They're women, but some women were shot, and that, I think, was their passion and their shout and scream, that they were very angry at that, because my brother was a doctor and he was serving people in the medical center. And can you imagine their terror as doctors to have to operate on terror suspects, terror people, so-called terror people? I mean, that's what the government is labeling them, of course. They would think of themselves as people defending Islam in the society. And so Maute group fought with the military. They ran to the medical center. They took over the fire trucks. They took over the police station in downtown. They burned the police station. We were in shock. People were running already because they saw the fire. And they actually gave a warning. They were shouting, this Maute group, that leave if you want to survive, because this is going to be a fight anyway. And the military was also kind of grappling, and the police, because they were undermanned at that moment. So can you imagine fighting off all these men with all these firearms coming out, right? Decades of firearms in a community, and it's not. I mean, it's a reality here in the Bangsamoro that your 40 years peace talks is just this year, 1 year ago. that has been resolved through a Bangsamoro peace talk. So firearms dearming is still a order of the day. So you got all these houses where all this multi-group took all the firearms and are fighting, and they know the terrain, they know the houses, they're from this location, some of them, and with their colleagues from the other municipalities were in Marawi for that seminar, for that assembly of theirs, they called the Tabligi, and they fought each other with the military and the police that were available. So destruction. People were running and walking almost half a day from Marawi to another urban center, Iligan City, which of course is Christian dominant. So many of them had problems with their identification cards, discrimination incidents where women in black, this way covered in black, masked, shielded in black, were held on by men in uniform, and of course they would actually be afraid to be held physically held. So we had to propose for women in uniform to be the ones checking on the Muslim women who were wearing the black or covered fully, and women in general, because you can't have men culturally, religiously checking women and holding on to their bags, where it was a terrorism, it was a horror of moment where everyone is seen as a possible sympathizer, yeah, from the security sector. They would think, I mean, for us, everyone was a suspect at that time when they were walking. So because, you know, the checkpoint has to really check on people. So anyway, and remembering in 4 years of remembering, the return of the Marawi continues to be the grappling plight. 3 martial laws, 3 years of martial law of the president did not repair, did not return back people to. So the population is counting at about 100,000 individuals who are not returned. They're in different parts of the country. And Potri knows some relatives that might be in Saudi Arabia and other parts as migrants, as IDPs. And guys, there is no, since we Philippines are crisis prone, 40 years of conflict and 10 typhoons a year, there is no evacuation law that protects evacuees. Can you imagine a Congress that would investigate the crime on one policeman in a urban center in Manila, and he's shooting, cannot check on a population's loss of 100,000 people, not accorded the necessary meeting or even a physical meeting prior to quarantine. That is how they are at that democratic, our Philippine Congress. You decide on a martial law to muster all the firearms against the little population, the small rural vibed Marawi, which has almost all of its children under scholarship because of their being poorest of the part of our country, poorest parts of our country, and yet you cannot even resolve returning them back and giving them the necessary food, shelter, milk, identification, basic tracking to know where they are in the country, in the Philippines, in Manila, in Luzon, in different islands of the country, 7,100 islands at that in the Philippines. So it's so easy to say, bomb them, but you can't build them back. You bomb them, but you can't build back their community. It's so easy to have brought all the firearms, all the kinds of artillery, higher than a human being, taller than I, because we were presented with the kinds of firearms that were used here by the Philippine military. And it's outstanding, the sizes of the UXOs, big holes. US, Russia, Australia, all China, all countries lent firearms just to fight a group of 20, 40 recruited 100 men at that time. And I'm sure a lot of those 100 men were normal civilians taken by the multi group to join them in desperation to protect themselves from annihilation in that mosque where they hid. And this is not the ground zero where I'm at. I'm sure you've seen them online. the pictures of downright gigantic holes, gigantic deep holes on the ground. So they had to have years. It wasn't just months of trying to dig up all the kind of firearms that were so-called sleeping, the UXO mines that were on Marawi Ground Zero. And to this day, we don't know if they've all gone. And they've been used as a justification not to return back people to Marawi Ground Zero, where people have no compensation bill yet, have no law yet that would guarantee them compensation for the houses destroyed, because there's no template. And we told in yesterday's forum with the Congress that the World Trade Center is an example by which there is support for the civilians, for those who were affected by a so-called terror attack or a terror incident. So that's the plight here. The worst urban destruction in recent century, in 21st century, in the Philippine democratic situation has not actually democratized anything, has not democratized rights for the people who were in Ramadan, who were during that Ramadan. It was a holy month. Sorry for the parallelisms of Palestine, but it was a Ramadan and airstrikes happened in Marawi. Hundreds of airstrikes in the 5-month urban warfare between Maute group, young children, 20s, fighting a government, full urban warfare of government artillery, Marines, Scott Rangers, you name it, all kinds of men in uniform came to Marawi. And the victims at that were the houses lovingly set up by every peso dollar that every OFW, every migrant abroad brought back home for his living and for his children to be not discriminated the way we are now saying, but quit lives matter, because it is that we're discriminated because of how we look, we speak. I don't speak the ordinary. I grew up abroad, so there is an accent that identifies us from here. Very hard at that. So the reality bites is that the U.S. has to, since it assisted in the anti-terror operations, it assisted in monitoring the peace talks of 40 years, 20 years. It also should look at assisting the return of the Filipino Maranao people to the ground zero, which is by United Nations principles, their right to return back to their normal location as long as it's safe and dignified to return back to. It's okay to have this open session. I'm sorry there's no PowerPoint. As I told you, I'm on quarantine. I'm not on a desktop. I wasn't able to prepare, but it's a long list of activities that are happening. There's a film tonight, morning at your time, to watch Houses in Pieces, evacuee stories. There's a lot of videos that we invite you to watch with. You don't have to be from Marawi to feel that this is one of the greatest destructions ever to sympathize with. And we need you, a voice in the world with social media access. As you saw, social media here is also a problem, Wi-Fi access. So thank you again, Potri. Thank you to Kinding Sindaw, to every peso dollar that you've assisted us in making widows survive and children. Of course, a dollar can't save them for a week, but that is definitely our goal, to keep on rallying the brotherhood and sisterhood of the world, so that a day forgot by government is a day that you as human beings have remembered them. Today is May 23, 1,300 days later, 4th year of evacuee life for Marawi, the story of a people forgotten, but not forgotten by you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Samira. We actually did have a couple of slides on our PowerPoint with some images that, show the displacement and the siege aftermath. If you'd like to add additional commentary on there, Patty, feel free to bring them up. Just so folks can really visualize, what this event has the kind of impact it's had on people. Um, so here's the first one. I'm not sure if you're able to see it, Samira.
Yeah, we can see it.
Mhm.
We can see it.
Okay.
You can show the mosque also. I
The
don't know if you
shelter
have.
sites, the
Mhm.
shelter sites in Marawi are still existing. You had a evacuated population of about 300,000 to 500,000 during the May 23, 2017, but only 1,000 shelters plus were awarded for that amount of population that were thrown away. So thrown away themselves to any location that would accept them. So they sleep on sidewalks. Literally, they're standing on sidewalks and sleeping on sidewalks in Manila. Truly sad. And this is some of the shelters that were at that time. The malnutrition was very high. Pregnancies, giving birth during evacuation was of course a normal or a sight to see. Um, Hygiene kits were not as available until today. Hand washing seems to be a very privileged action for them. Water is not readily available. They actually have to wait for rainwater. Next, please. They actually have to wait for rainwater in many of the shelters. So there's about 10 or so shelter sites still in Marawi, and that's partially because 95%, according to United Nations research, related research, is that 90% of evacuees are home-based. They are based in home. So this is the ocular site. What is finished? Some of the government structures, they say, after 4 years. Today is the presentation of the generals. Yes, it's military generals who are handling the reconstruction. And to this day, 4 years later, some of that structure government is still being rebuilt. So the question is, when do we bring back the people? And when do we go back? Next, please. This is the Lake Lanao, which is a national lake. Yes, it's the second largest lake of the country, the Blue Lagoon. It's a lake. And suspicion is that Marawi's portion of where the power plants are did not get any bomb blasts. So very suspicious because why were they protected? They supply energy to the country. So you actually know where to bomb. It was so easy to bomb houses and mosques, but of course protect the power plants. And these are, of course, we are also praying for the soldiers. The soldiers are not our enemies. Many of them are first-time soldiers and they served Marawi. Some of them died. So to all the parents and families of soldiers who were slain, who were wounded, their feet cut from this urban warfare, we deeply condole with you. We are one with you. Even as Muslims, you protected our community. Anyway, it was an order by the president that you had to fight. You had to fight. Next, please. So these are shelters continuing to be there. Women, of course, are deeply impacted. They're usually the victims of evacuation circumstances. They have to find a way to feed the children while the men are away trying to find some life outside of the evacuation. Probably joined the diaspora in Manila. They are the ones directly having to deal with their sick children. So women really are those directly in frontliners in an evacuation circumstance, especially where there's no medical access. They're their own doctors in their own household. Next, please. Because Marawi, of course, is overwhelmed with a lot of things to do, titling of land. And what's unique, guys, again, American related, is that American colonization is the one that brought about laws relating to land ownership, where only people with titles, the government at that, titling it, can own. So much of there is a controversy, future scandal, and it's this forum that will kind of like be hearing about it is that much of the so-called Marawi lands is military reserve. As much as this is not also, this is like talking about our reservations there in America. We were actually like that. We were under a Bureau of Wild Tribes, 1940s, an American influenced law for the Philippines to recognize us Muslims as a Bureau of the Wild, members of the Bureau of the Wild. So the controversy right now that we are talking about in Congress is that do we actually own our lands despite us living in our physically in our Bangsamoro homeland? So that's going to be something of concern for legislators and this president, is to revoke the order that places all the hectare ownership of Marawi and other lands as part of government domain or government lands. Next, please. That is for our American activists to look at. So welcome. Thank you. Welcome to the world of confusion, complexity in Bangsamoro.
Any other? Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Sam. Bureau of the Wild. Welcome to with the nations of USA. The Native American First Nations are also, actually the Bureau of the Wild is copied from them and applied to us. So there's no acknowledgement. All the massacres that were done to us is not acknowledged actually as part of a Philippine War, US-Philippine War, because it's just running after the wild people, the savages. Patty, you have a question?
Oh, I actually found some information about the House in Pieces screening, so I wanted to just share that from my browser. Here's a graphic of it. If you go to facebook.com/House in Pieces, I believe you can find more sign up info there. So I wanted to share a little about that. Oh, sorry, my Zoom is not working. So there it is. I'll drop it in the Facebook comments as well.
There's so much not realized by the Philippine government that the relics of the civilization of the Filipinos as the Spaniards took over the 95% of the Philippines and cut the heritage from them, the Mindanao, particularly Marawi, was able to keep and preserve the relics, the evidences of that living tradition of that civilization. So so I don't know how much conscience our Philippine government has, because when General Anyo was here, we had a private conversation with him, and he even discussed with us, the Moros in New York who were available to attend his intimate discussion. He discussed with us how he was planning to bomb Marawi like a chessboard. And I was telling him, do you know what you're bombing? Do you know that it's your ancient heritage that will prove that you are not, that you have that civilization, that the Spaniards are wrong to tell us that they bring us a civilization. But well, generals are generals. They follow orders from the president. I think, Patty, are you starting to say something and I'm cutting you off? No? So there is this lobbying of Philippine Human Rights Act. I don't know how much the language of the Moro people in there, because the way I heard, it's autonomous region. So we don't know if it's included. So may we request if there's a review from the BARM that we can lobby because you just said that the very closeness of the Philippine and USA security. So maybe we can bring that too in Congress here and the Senate here.
Definitely, Potri, definitely. You are a military sponsor of the Philippines. Why aren't you a sponsor of peace and human rights and justice for the Philippines? I mean, you've been giving more military defense intelligence aid, but there's no Wi-Fi support for evacuees. Is that a deliberate shielding of the eyes of evacuees to their realities and solidarity with you in the US? We can't even talk to each other. I mean, I have to find Wi-Fi just to talk to you. So thank you, thank you. I mean, evacuation shelters have no Wi-Fi, so you're actually deliberately not even wanting education for the children based on digital technology and quarantine. Quarantine is supposed to be strengthening of the Wi-Fi specifically for the evacuees that you bombed out of their houses. So I can't understand that kind of mentality. And when we spoke there in Washington for the USIP forum, we actually told donors to actually look at the mismatch or the lack of transitional justice mechanisms right after the wars that have been government and so-called terror groups have done. Of course, terrorists will always be an enemy. So-called extremist groups need to be isolated. They need rehabilitation programming. Security and defense has to sectoralize and categorize them into a programming. That's not to condone them, but the anti-terror bill of the Philippines, we urge the Senate of the US to urge this country to actually look at the anti-terror laws, not just to satisfy a so-called US alliance or a United Nations support, but actually an anti-terror policy here would decimate a community. When you have a terrorist suspect in a house, in a tent, in a shelter, in a forest, in a community, in our location, the whole community will be operated upon. And therefore, there will be collateral damage. The word of the day, collateral. 21st century, and we still have collaterals. In a time of validation, verification, peace movements since 1970s in solidarity with the US in the West. And we can't understand why martial law was supposed to be the solution. There was no Zoom, there was no one meeting, public hearing with the communities, how to curtail this Mauti group, how to stop them. Of course, there was no time. They were shooting at each other, the military, the police versus the Mauti group. But there was a 24-hour window. There could have been an ultimatum. You so-called terrorists, you leave this location using traditional dispute resolutions that are anyway recognized by the Philippine Constitution. These people are not just modern day urban warfare freaks. They know that their culture allows for traditional mediation and negotiation, even if the Western laws, the Philippine laws say no to terrorist negotiation. But give us an ultimatum, 24 hours, let the people leave the city, protect the people, don't have a war there. There's a megaphone that you could have used to let people out. And you, multi-group, if you don't leave this location, we're gonna bomb that house. That one surgical strike was the surgical needed that we needed. Why was it not a surgical strike? It was a whole 3,000 houses strike. 3,000 houses struck. And that's not to exaggerate the point, the 3,000 houses in ground zero. There's even more because one house houses 3 houses. Extended families, you know what extended families mean, right, Potri? For us indigenous peoples, one house is 5 houses. Goodness sake.
It's well, I will repeat what General Anyo said. They're just playing chess when they were bombing, because one, they're just following the president. Second, the military themselves need to know what they're losing. They're losing they're destroying the link of humanity, which is housed in Marawi. And also, if you look at reserve, what they call this, protected areas in the whole world, Marawi could be a lot of protected heritage area. Like, that mosque that was pulverized to the ground, that's a very ancient mosque. But hopefully this venue we're able to lead to people raising hands to be in solidarity, because we are still hopeful that we can lobby among humanitarian Congress and Senate people here in the US to look at our relationship with the Philippines, particularly the relationship to us, the Mindanao people, that up to now, the wounds that has been inflicted since 1902, 1903, 1906, 1907 is not given acknowledgement, and the continuous infliction attacks, and I mean, I was with the Palestinian rally today, the and while I am in the march, I, like, very teary-eyed to remember Marawi, because I even took one of the microphones and and did my slogan: "Stop the U.S. war machine from Palestine to the Philippines," and look at Mindanao. But so nothing much heard about our issue, actually, and hopefully through this venue, the world will be informed, and hopefully will bring more solidarity energies that can really help influence or pressure our own governmental system, and giving, being transparent. What do you really need out of Marawi? Are you trying to make it into Hawaii, which is a military reserve, military complex, and an R&R? So that is what is unsaid. Meanwhile, this Marawi Siege is still in a discussion process. No response, nothing. Everything is in oblivion.
Portray it's the basis. Marawi is the basis for firearms protection grant from the US. Why? The anti-terror law, its major defense is Marawi. Its major justification is Marawi. Portray. So Marawi is seemingly the evidence for why we need more of technology defense from the US and the West.
Oh, making money out of Marawi, like making money out of Palestine.
We've got a couple questions that we'd love to ask Samira before we wrap up. One of them being, I think there are some calls for solidarity that came out of this conversation, like, attending the screenings, supporting the events, maybe lobbying our representatives in the United States. But Samira, are there any other calls for solidarity on the ground among indigenous people in the Bangsamoro that we might be able to amplify here in the U.S.?
Wonderful. Definitely to urge transparency, since you are a donor. America is a donor to the US, to the Philippines, so-called anti-terror efforts. You're a donor to the humanitarian aid. We'd like you to ask how much and what is the donor funding going to? Where is it going to? Solidarity also is really upon us to say thank you to you, the world, to the US for accompanying us in this very difficult time. So the continuing call of safe and dignified return is the repeated call. And if we can reach your US media to get our statements out, that would be great for us to amplify a safe and dignified return, since you're also invested in the future of the ruined city, the ruined Islamic city of the Philippines, or the ruined southern city the ancient city that housed a lot of the American camps in the past. No longer a trace of that, because heritage is definitely forgotten in times of war. So thank you for the protection. Of course, our hashtag is always books, not bullets. We urge a legacy for our children to keep on wanting to be peace successors and generation change makers. They don't deserve the wars that we create for them. We don't deserve our silence. They don't deserve the silence of their elders like us, who can have the capacity to talk to you, the outside world, the so-called world that is not actually outside. You're the ones that are keeping the fire alive. The elders and the leaders here might have fatigued already. They've forgotten already. That's why we call it forgotten in our presentation to the United Nations a few months ago, when we said this is a forgotten population. You evacuate the population, but you don't have an evacuation law in place. That's the saddest, tragic story there is. To have people on sidewalks, and the sidewalks will sweep them away anyway because of the beautification of an urban center. You evacuate the population, but you can't afford them selling on sidewalks, and then you remove them by law that no sidewalks should have people selling anything. And that's this great discrepancy as well.
Yeah. And one other question we had from Noni in the Zoom is how is Marawi, and especially the Bakwits, how are they coping with the pandemic right now?
There's no income generation for them, of course, especially for those with many children. A normal household will have 6 children, 5+. Of course, we have one of the highest fertility rates in the country. Again, Bangsamoro population, Muslims at that have no popular family planning methods. So they're in shelters. And yes, the government has provided, as we said, 1,000 out of tens of thousands who are in need or so. And the transportation is a bit difficult to a commercial site. The commercial market, the market is $2, $5, sorry, $3 away for you to have a transportation. So that's $6 a day. That's not going to be affordable for a 100 or $1 income earner a day. So what you aspire to go to sell, you can't, because you can't get any income anyway. So the government, of course, is surprised, and it's just competing with so many things right now. We urged the foreign correspondents yesterday to look at not just charter change, constitutional change as the headline of the day. One story of a woman survivor and her 10 children is as much a headline. Let's not wait for death. Let's not wait for airstrikes in the stomach, that is, airstrikes in the mind. Because literally we met people who were in a tent. He was actually kind of like shaking, like as if like an airstrike continues to haunt him and hound him. It's like it doesn't stop, and he kind of like has shivers at night. The family says, like there's another bomb that's coming. So these are the unseen, intangible effects of war that are on people. So yeah, where's funding? Where's budget? That's why we're talking to you. Please ask your Congress to ask our Congress, where is money going to?
And the trauma, the post-traumatic syndrome, and all this, the unseen. Yeah. So we are 7:59.
That's why we're
right
wearing
now.
black pottery, because we're in solidarity. We're wearing
Yes.
black for those who all died.
I was wearing black earlier the whole day in the in outside. So yeah, I'm I just have to take a deep breath.
Yeah,
we
we
are
always have to survive. Yeah, survive.
7:59 right now. We will let Jerome take over, and then maybe after live we can continue a little bit to talk. Jerome?
All right. Thank you so much again for the wonderful commentary and analysis of the current situation in Marawi City, as well as answering some of our questions, looking at how are folks not really able to cope with the pandemic, unfortunately, because the funding is not going where it should be. I'm looking at you, U.S. Congress. We need you to step it up a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. The funding should be going more towards helping folks navigate this pandemic, especially because folks in Marawi City had to go through 2 Ramadans in the midst of COVID. And clearly, that's going to be like near impossible. It's very difficult. Um, and people all over the world, we just need to get more PPE to folks. We need to get people, the contact tracing up. We need people to get in care and stay in care. I could go on a whole public health thing, but I'll save that for when I have my PhD and I'm teaching a class. So moving forward, we do have some announcements we'd like to wrap up. We always have ongoing typhoon relief efforts through the National Alliance for Filipino Concern, or NAFCON USA. So you can visit that link right there, or just Google NAFCON USA in your search bar. We also have our Love for Marawi campaign. I have my PhD and I'm teaching a class. So moving forward, we do have A, so you can visit that link right there, or just Google NAFCON USA in your search bar. We also have our Love for Marawi campaign. I have my PhD and I'm teaching a class. So
What's going on?
I'm not sure how that happened. I normally don't talk that fast unless I've had 2 large things of Starbucks. So
No, my bad, my audio player.
You have to boycott Starbucks because it gives money to destroy Gaza.
Yes, I did not know that. I will revisit my caffeine consumption. So we can also have folks sign up for our Love for Marawi campaign. We have updates through a tiny URL. / Love for Marawi sign up. We also have our Save Our Schools network to continue to support Lumad and Bakwit schools because they keep having to move because they're not allowed to go back. As we've continue to mention tonight, if you want to learn more about KS, our weekend dance workshops, as well as upcoming performances, you can use your phone and scan the QR code right there on the left. I believe we're still collecting donations for Duyog Ramadan to support displaced folks in Mindanao as well. And then I'm also going to share my screen super quickly. I'm going to switch hats for a second, folks. So, fun fact, when I said public health, I actually do work in public health, and Aperture Community Health Center is having a huge testing event next Saturday, the 29th, from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Y'all can either call in and sign up for a slot, or we can also do walk-ins. We're doing testing for COVID-19 as well as increasing access to the vaccine. So I believe we will also have COVID-19 vaccines available for folks. So please call ahead and sign up for that. We're also testing for HIV and STIs as the city and the world begins to reopen. We would like all of you to take initiative and stay responsible for different aspects of your health. We can also provide linkage to different services such as primary care, PrEP, behavioral health, trans health, etc. So you can call our toll-free line, leave a message, we'll get back to you, or you can also look out for me on the interwebs and I can help you navigate that. And then the second flyer I'd like to share with you, just to further emphasize, we are still in a pandemic, so be fab and get your jab. Aperture is offering, walk-ins for COVID-19 vaccines, so no appointment needed. If you're not able to go to the Saturday one, you can come to us Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 4. Call our toll-free line or visit aperture.org. There is a spot for a vaccine appointment request, so you'll find your way there, and we will call you to set things up. And we are right at 400 Broadway off the Canal Street stop for the ACE, NQ, JZ, and the 6 line. So it's very easy to get to our office. You can't miss it. And that's the end of my announcements. And Pochi, we can now close out with
we have our announcement too. On
we have more.
May 26th, we are on at 2 p.m. through Queensboro Public Library. We'll have Philippines Legends and Epics. There'll be a 45-minute afternoon event sponsored by Queens Library. And then we will be at Bulusan. You want to say that, Patty?
Yes, Kinding Sindaw will be presenting at the Bulosan Center for Filipinx Studies virtual conference this Friday. We will be giving a 1 hour panel with 3 talks. One talk will be on the Rinayung series, and another talk by Jerome will be on the benefits of Kinding Sindaw on its members. And Jerome, correct me if I'm getting this wrong, like combating colonial mentality.
Yes.
And,
Yes, combating colonial mentality, as well as looking at how being part of KS has, impact the mental health and its members. Mhm.
and Tita Potri will also give a presentation on how Kinding Sindaw adapted as an organization when the pandemic happened and closed everything down. The theme of the conference overall is healing, care, and resistance. So we're excited to kind of speak to those topics as an organization.
And also Saturdays, Sundays, we continue our dance classes and our martial art classes. And talking about Wi-Fi, our teachers are mostly coming directly from the Philippines, particularly the indigenous and the Muslim people in Mindanao. So just echoing what Samira was saying earlier, that there's some kind of discrepancy or discrimination that I was even talking earlier with the tradition bearers from Lanao, that they're supposed to continually teach us here through Zoom, and there's a big difficulty in looking for Wi-Fi. So, however, please always catch us Saturday noontime for the dance classes from tradition bearers from the Maguindanao, Maranao, Tausug, Tiboli, and other indigenous tribe in the Philippines. Use this as an opportunity to directly meet tradition bearers, even it's in Zoom. And you also have our martial art classes, Silat Kali, at 3 p.m. on Saturday, and Sundays at 6 p.m. Together our dance classes. I mean, our dance classes first, and then our martial art classes. And there will be another Rinayong coming soon. So stand by and check us out always in our IG, Twitter, Facebook. Any other handles?
Soon to be on TikTok. I will be working on that for y'all.
And you'd like to applause. Thank you very much, Samira Gutoc. And hopefully we can continue not only talking about what you're saying earlier, we will try to put it into documentation and seek help from the powers to be around here in our Congress and our Senate that will acknowledge how much the Filipinos meant to them. I know that they recognize that the biggest help ever of USA is our healthcare workers. So maybe that can be our, it's just assertion. That's one of the mission of Kinesio. You just have to assert to preserve our culture, tradition, our sanity, our life, and also the way we have to be together in our that reclaiming. If we reclaim, then you'll be more empowered as people, as humanity. And then even in diaspora, we continue recreating through dance, music, martial art, and continue bringing the voices of our people back home that seemingly, systematically, kind of forgotten.
Salamat po, Tre. Sa mga kapwa Pilipino, kayo ay OFWs, you send money back home. Pero alamin nyo saan dumarating ang pera ninyo. The pain of one is the pain of all. The right to life, liberty, property, yan ang nawala po sa Marawi. Yung mga taga Marawi, na kapatid yung kapwa Pilipino. And to us in the world, we thank you for taking care to amplify our realities that are forgotten by headlines and the newspapers of the Philippines. We look up to you with the heart and compassion and passion that continually takes care of the downtrodden, the weak, the vulnerable, and the voiceless. Thank you for the solidarity. Kinding Sindaw, we are ever grateful for the years of support.
Assalamualaikum. In honor of our ancestors who created and transmitted this tradition to us, with open hearts, we'd like to take them in mind, body, and soul. And with humility, we bow as you use it to empower us as you walk our path. We have to take photo. Who's taking the photo?